Hey guys, welcome back. It's Lau from Mortal Compass, and I am here to bring you Company Heroes 2.0 review. When I originally spent $600 and played the 1.0 version of the game and reviewed it, I recommend that people do not purchase the game, as it was great in form and table presence, but bad in gameplay and flow. Too many flaws, bad design, different rule books that cause confusion, not enough rules for basic mechanics, and no appendix for different words or symbols, and worst of all, just lack of basic components, the dice, for example. So after a year of receiving my game and getting to a 2.0 print and play version of the game that was consistently updated, and I kept keeping up the updates of the print and play version, I had probably 3 different versions. It actually got annoying at one point, but we did it. What is my thoughts now at the final version that I've been playing? The Kickstarter coming out shortly, would I recommend spending the money on this game, or would I tell you to pass, as I did in the 1.0 version when I reviewed it earlier? For those looking for the quick answer about a game that was once a 6 out of 10 and where does it stand now, my recommendation is to purchase the game if you're interested in World War II tactic games, or even in competitive games, or if you love games where everything just keeps building up more and more and more and more. It's just a non-stop crescendo until the very end. What has changed is making me totally switch my thoughts about the game. Why do I now say go get it if you get an option, when before I was very much not in favor of purchasing it? Let's start with components. I have little to say here as I have not received any component updates to the cathedral or the bunkers, which were badly designed in the first edition. Rumors are they have updated the bunkers to hold the unit trays, and the cathedral will not really be changed other than a possible floor base added on. The unit miniatures were great in my opinion in the first edition, and I still think they will stay true for the second edition. As you recall, the vehicle trays were unrealistically low in the 2.0 version. It's stated to include 25 trays they have an update pack coming to that, compared to the 6 in the previous version. So you can buy an update pack of 25 trays compared to 6 in a 4-player core set in the previous version of the game. Dice was another poorly calculated amount, to the point that it increased the game time. With the 2.0 version, it's stated to have more than double dice if you purchase what I have purchased. That is something developers clearly realized early on was a problem and have addressed it. Table presence. The table presence is huge and glamorous, and when you play it, it feels like it's a war. It legitimately feels like you're playing a World War II game. The miniatures of buildings standing or destroyed just look amazing. The cathedral does look amazing, but it doesn't function as well as the destroyed and standing buildings. But the problems we have come upon more and more is that the game itself is too big. We play a lot of 3v3s and 4v4, and it doesn't fit on a 4x6, 4 foot by 6 foot table. When I mean it doesn't fit at all. Like, it's just ginormous. You can watch some of the playthrough videos. Now, I can't complain too much, as I did get to play TI4 with 6 players on the same table, and it took up more space than Company Heroes did. But that's because Company Heroes does come with great army trace, and TI, you just have to put your units everywhere. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing to be aware of when looking at this game. Everything was designed to be noticeable. If you're playing 1v1s, 2v2s, you're fine. As soon as you rip out 3 panels, you get to the 4th map panel, it gets huge. Ease of play. This is what I found the most frustrating in the first edition. And I even made a separate video going into detail about all the issues I had with just the gameplay alone, taking away components and everything. The game originally came with 3 rulebooks, and actually I just found out recently it came with 4 rulebooks from the solo rulebook that was added in if you bought the solo expansion. And the rules changed between books, and some rules were in one book and not another book, and it was just a pain. Anybody who plays it will agree the rules were just lower place. They have gotten rid of rulebook, which is a win, and have included a glossary commander overview book to help better understand the rules with different situations. Night and day difference. What's also nice is that if you're a 1.0 backer, you will have all the rule changes in blue color to see what's changed, where instead of having to read the whole rulebook. The good things is that gameplay hasn't changed, but has been revised to much better flow all around. Balance. What about the balance of the game? 1.0. In 1.0 version, the big 6 to 8 player battles, the allies' win ratio was 1 in 10. They did not win games, and maybe we had made mistakes or players didn't understand how to play with them or whatever it could have been, but it was not a good thing for balance. This is where a lot of the focus was placed in last year in the developing of the 2.0 version, and you can tell. And let me tell you something, all the faction updates and balances and unit compositions were updated in an absolutely positive way. Every unit was redesigned for a specific purpose. Anyone who has 1.0 version should update their game just for this reason alone, just to get all the changed unit stats. The changes have deeply impacted the British in such a positive way. Now, if the updates, the Allies are winning far more or losing with just a slight number of points, night and day difference. And everyone in Mark Gray group has just loved all the changes. Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the other changes that have addressed the problems I've had with the game. Let's start with the start of turn. There's no longer the player with the lowest VP going first and gaming the system, but there is an operation deck, and it is hidden information on the amount of turns in the maneuver phase, and only the first team knows the number. This has fixed a huge complaint about the second team having such a huge advantage, because they always knew the last of the enemy movements. Both sides will enjoy the game much better with this setup. Another update, now there's 15 command points instead of 9. What that means for new players is that you can now move 5 different units their full movements per turn. For returning players, this solves the biggest headache mid to late game. That is the lack of command points to move all your units across the board. This decision to increase the CP to 15 has helped tremendously with unit movement, and more importantly, allowing the infantry to play a far bigger role in the battlefield. Just a great win. I would recommend more than 15 CP, but 15 is far better than 9. This change also gives players great use of retreat. Before, if you retreated a unit, it would hardly see combat again. Now, you will have a unit back in the fight, and some see multiple redeployments, only increasing their impact value in the battlefield. Retreat was a pain in the butt for me in the 1.0 because the retreat was 3 hexes per maneuver phase. That meant in some games, a unit retreating wouldn't see combat for 5 whole rounds, like 5 game rounds. You'll play a full game between 8 to 10 rounds, and if you're spending 5 rounds to get back on the battlefield, and you retreat on round 4, you're probably not going to see combat again. Now, with the retreat being 6 hexes, I have found myself pushing harder into enemy lines to disrupt or reduce control points, where in the past, it would have never even been a feasible option. Another simple update to ruling that's completely changed the dynamics of the game. Great win. Another big help was now you start with 3 infantry units if you start round 1 instead of 2. This is a small update, but when it comes to the army composition and early combat, you now have round 2 and 5 seeing a lot more firefights between infantry, which only increases the action, making the game more impactful in its core aspect of combat. If you're buying company heroes, you will have combat non-stop after round 1. I hope you guys understand. There's no breathing room. It's just boom, boom, bop, bop. It's incredible. And the infantry play is now much more feasible and felt throughout the course of the game. Another great thing, all the commander cards have been revamped and updated to more properly bring in a diverse feel to the overall commander decision. When I mean all, I mean all. They added more call-in commander options, just amazing because it opens up more dynamic map plays and reduces turtling. Another small change was now you start with 3 random commanders instead of 10. People would just get analysis paralysis in the decision. Now you just get 3, and you choose one of your 3, and you just move on. And it just increases the game, just pop, 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 moving. Another win. Also, when you completely unlock your 4th commander tier, you can then trade 2 XP for any 1 resource, which is another simple rule update with great impact. So when you amass XP that you don't have any use for, you can exchange it for resources to buy more units, upgrades, this and that. Great win. They added a whole new action called Assault. What it means is that when you want a hex that an enemy is on, you can assault that hex, and if during the damage phase the enemy dies, you will automatically take the hex before the income phase. This helps with play before, where if an enemy ended on a VP hex or any resource hex, it would take 2 turns to take that hex over. 1 to kill it, and then a 2nd turn to step on it. But now you can take it on the same turn. Another part of this feature is that if an enemy leaves the hex, you'll automatically take the hex during the maneuver phase. This is one of the only additions that I think newer returning players will have to adjust to. But once understood, just increases the most important thing about company heroes and the only reason why I play competitive games: action. They have consistently been adjusting the references to help make the assault move less confusing to returning and new players. Another win. Rules on defensive emplacements have been updated. Before, you had to target a sandbag and do 2 damage to destroy it. Now, If you assign 2 damage to a hex, all defenses are removed at the end of the damage phase. That's it. Also, another thing, which is not even my notes here, but now all emplacements are just 1 command point. So very simple to place and very simple to remove, but during the battle, they provide a great amount of playability now. Another simple update with great simplification of overall play. Good job, Macro Games. Another huge gripe I had was poorly executed MG design, where the pinning was extremely powerful, and when playing turn-based, you could, with 1 MG, completely pin 3 units on a turn, which was game-breaking at times. I remember a game where I was able, with 2 MGs, to push the entire enemy army back to his base and just pin all these units in the area. Now, they have changed it, and now it's called Overwatch. And what it did to the MG confusion is fix all of it, in my opinion. For players that are returning, you'll understand what I'm talking about. For new players, I'll kind of explain a little bit. If you notice this review, I'm not going into super depth, but I am telling you the core of it. So what is Overwatch? MG still have the power to control the battlefield, but during the damage phase, they can now only pin 1 unit and only damage the unit they pin. Before, it was just you pin everybody, allowing for flanking maneuvers. They also fixed the problem of during the maneuver turn where the MGs could pin units. Now in the maneuver phase of an MG setup, a unit can still move through its firing arc. For those that have not played it, don't worry about it. Players that played it, you'll understand. But they will take 1 damage for each hex that they move through in that arc. Easy, simple, concise fix to the MG problem. A win in my books. XP system was updated to allow more XP to be gained during the game. XP is now an overflow, in abundance, but in a good way. I remember one game where I received 6 XP in 1 damage phase. This allows commanders to level up faster, for more unique gameplays events to happen. It allows for better unit upgrades. It just, everything just becomes so much more dynamic, just expanding from that. How it works now is, now 1, every income phase you get 1 XP just because you have an income phase. 2, for every different unit you assign damage to, you get an XP. And 3, for every unit that you lose, you get also an XP. All 3 different ways of gaining XP make sense. Even thematically, they make sense. And only benefit an attacking player. The more players you have attacking, the more enjoyable the game is. Win in my books. This is a game where it's, I mean, you can turtle, but it's not gonna work in your favor. Man, and it's good. It's really good. Another weird ruling they had was that you couldn't store over 9 of any resource before or receive more than 4 resources per income phase. It made no sense to me why you would be punished for holding on to resources to make a big purchase later on in the game. The new ruling update now is you can store unlimited amount of resources and receive as much resources as you can per income phase. Another simple ruling update with amazing gameplay results. Just another win in the book. Like, everything you're doing, you've been doing right so far. It just feels, I'm telling you, it just feels great. You could probably tell just by the energy flowing from me. Even talking about it compared to 1.0 just makes me happy. My $500 some feels like it's getting its money's worth, and it's definitely getting more table time. Okay, let's continue on. These are some key changes that just bring this game to life so much more. Every battle is different. Every game provides different ways of winning, different explosions, different gameplays, different outcomes. I could play against the same faction over and over, and each game feels different, new, and a learning experience. And that's what any game experience should be in board gaming. That's what we want. I don't want to play meta. I want to play a game. I want to be challenged. Now, I do still have some concerns that I must also talk about, that I'm not sure how I feel about. It's not a good or a bad concern. It's just the concerns I must address. I have to be realistic with you guys. I mean, there's a lot in 1.0 and 2.0 have changed, but some things I do still want to talk about. Some of the army changes, I think, are a little too much, where it doesn't feel like the faction from the video game. Now, I know this isn't a video game, and a board game has to make implementations make sense, and in many changes, and that may mean changing the dynamics of certain factions. But this faction I'm talking about is the OKW. They are a unique faction in the fact that they can deploy their tier 2 and tier 3 building in the battlefield and later spawn units for them, which is a huge advantage if you can push a tier 3 building to the middle of the battlefield and defend it. And you can spawn tanks right in the fight. Now, the drawback before was that if an enemy destroys your building, you would lose that tier and you would have to rebuild it again to build any units. In the updated version, it doesn't matter if you push a tier 2 building or if you push a tier 3 building, because if it's destroyed, you can still keep spawning those units at your base, at your home base. So you don't have to rebuild them. I just don't like these changes for the OKW. It really hurts aggressive nature of the OKW and also the uniqueness of them. Is this a game-breaking issue? Absolutely not. Guys, please understand. But it is, I think, in the wrong direction. It could just be my aggressive playstyle speaking out and wanting to keep things the same. Still a great faction. Just being a nitpicky player now. Another change they're implementing is splash damage. This is a unique status that only very few amount of units had. It means that when you do damage, all adjacent hexes are dealt 1 unblockable damage. In the 1.0 version, this was a very finicky system, as it would damage all infantry, light vehicles, and hidden units for 1 damage. It was very strong. Now, the updated change on the splash still happens, but only damages adjacent units that are within sight of the target that it attacks. This change was good, but the problem was they updated many units to have the feature, splash feature, that now more units are implementing it, and it just feels like it's too much splash for me on the board. And the change, again, it isn't game breaking for me. It's not absurd. It's just not there in my opinion. Does it break the game? No. Do I like it? No. Does it mean the game's bad thing? Does it mean it's a bad thing? No. It's just my opinion, like the OKW. I know a lot of people that love the new OKW. It's just my opinion. There's another expansion coming out called the Lost Brigades. It's another thing I'm not a huge fan of. And it's not only me, but it's all the people that play Company Heroes in my group have that. We played it twice, and we just stopped using it temporarily. What it means is you can have an elephant out in the 3rd round. That's right, the strongest tank out in the game in the 3rd round. It's not a bad expansion, but it's not well developed right now. When we played it, when we finished it off, we're just like, it's not there yet. I recommend, if they go that route, to add more call-in attacks or make the Lost Brigades be expensive or start damage. But an elephant in round 3, just my thoughts, it's too much. Or maybe not. Again, is it game breaking? No, I don't think so. It's more annoying. And again, I played about 5 to 7 games with Lost Brigades. I would say if you haven't played the core game in the 2.0 version like 10 times, I wouldn't recommend expansion. But what's nice is that it's not a required expansion, but an option to increase the variability of the experience, of the overall experience. Now, here's some things I can't speak on because they are still in development, as I haven't actually received a 2.0 version of the game. It's just print and play for me. So I've not played any solo crop or content from 2.0. First edition was not bad, but I wouldn't recommend anyone buy that expansion. It just wasn't there. It's not like broken. It just wasn't there. For second edition, they're going to increase more solo armies and are again reviewing and updating that system, which I think is great. It needs to be updated. And from what I've been hearing in the background, it's much more fine-tuned, it's much more calibrated, and it's much more, I would say, sporadic. That's what I'm hearing, but I haven't played it, so don't take that as a grain of salt. Another thing is price point. I don't know what the new 2.0 version will cost. I know they're breaking into 2 player packs, and then you can add on other armies as standalone expansions. I do like that idea. If you told me, Slav, did you receive any 2.0 game content? No, it's all print and play that I had to put together. So I don't actually have any 2.0 components. Can't speak word on the quality, but I can tell you from what I was told or from what the 1.0 version was, the quality overall is great, other than the Bunkum Cathedral, but we've talked about it. They are updating that. They've told me, that that's something that they have been looking and addressing. What is my final thoughts? Well, if Bad for Game keeps focusing on this game like they did last year, I think they will address any concerns players may have, as they did address majority of the concerns I had in the previous review. I think the splash damage Lost Brigade should be more fine-tuned and updated before the product ships. And guess what? I am more than confident they will fine-tune it and they will get it done. Trust me, they're that type of company. They look, they hear, they listen, and they adjust. So I would recommend the game. But what would I score it out of 10? And where does it go on my wall of all-time best competitive games? I don't feel comfortable giving a final score, as I've not actually experienced any of the final product, just print and play. I think it's too soon for that. But if we took the components, changes, and updates that we know of, I would have to give this game and this is the only other game I've ever rated that high, a 9 out of 10. That is only focusing on what I have experienced. This is dangerous for me to say, as you must understand, when the final copy arrives, it could change a bit or a lot. We can get a final copy and it'd be a mess. But if they do what they say they are doing, I don't think the score will change. If anything, I think it might even go up. I feel very confident Backrow Games will take the proper steps to fix the component issues and update the cathedral and bunker. And man, it would almost be the perfect war game. And especially if it's a World War II theme with tanks and stuff. It's a lot of tactics, it's a lot of strategy, and just all around explosive fun to play. Oh man, I wish you guys could come down to my house and play. Honestly, it's fun. Grab some beer, grill some burgers, and let's get to war. And here's the thing. Did I tell you guys you could play this game a 4v4 under 4 hours? Or that you can technically play a 5v5 or 6v6 if you have the table space and designed map for that sizes? You know what I mean? What about the non-stop progression of violence on the board where every round is just more and more chaos until the victory point score is reached? You know what this reminds me of? This is kind of strange. So I go to a board game place. This is not even on my review. And I watch people play Warhammer. In Warhammer, if you look at the theme and everything, like I see the books and like it's supposed to be like chaos and death and this and that. But when you actually watch people play a tabletop game, it doesn't feel that way. Here, this is like what Warhammer would have been, should have been if it was World War II theme. Just it literally progressively gets more violent, more chaotic. You literally feel like you're just like blah, blah, blah. Like I think that's a good analogy. Maybe not. I have bad analogies. Let me get back to my script here. What about the time I had a mortar team have a double crit and wipe out Steward tank that was about to push into my support line and wipe out my supporting units? Did I tell you about the American Jeep that survived 8 dice of assigned damage with 1 health left? This is what makes this game so good. Those crazy moments that are just so memorable. We didn't even talk about upgrading your units, to be even more better, to be more like better and beneficial on the battlefield as the game progresses. You want him to live. You're just like, you know what? I want this guy to come back. I've invested so much in him. Let me retreat him, get him back out there. I enjoy the video game, and this is the best video game to board game implementation that I have played. This War of Mine comes pretty close. Now, my competitive board game, where does this fall? If you're talking a game with more than 2 players, 3 players plus, this game has topped. Oof. Let's say if it's more than 4 players, for sure, this has topped it. If you're playing a game with more than 4 players, this has topped it. If it's more than 2 players, it's right at the top. But anything with more than 4 players, this crushes it. More than 2 players, it's right at the tippity top. But when it comes to 5, 6, 7, 8 players, I don't think anything tops the experience you get within the time frame and the simplicity of understanding that competes with company heroes. I want to thank Bad Crow Games specifically, well, technically everybody on the team, but Chris, Brian, Marcel, and even people on the Discord, Hamster. I mean, all the people that have been there playing with me, and then also just the game community that comes down to my house to play. If you're watching this review and you play at my house, thanks to you also. And most importantly, I really hope that people understand, if Bad Crow Games keep doing what they've doing with the first edition, coming back to the original backers and helping them out with the update packs and everything, I think the 2.0 edition will pay dividends in all their future endeavors. Thanks so much, guys. Hopefully this long review helped you get a better overview. And if you want to watch a bunch of our gameplay players of 2.0, you could find them somewhere on YouTube, someplace there. But yeah, thanks so much once again. Hopefully this helps you guys out in making a decision about whether the Company Heroes 1 is even worth it, and if you're a 1.0 backer, what is it about 2.0 that's really worth updating? Thanks so much. Peace out. Against the 5 damage here. Because you have sandbag, so roll 2 defense dice. Okay. Ooh, that's a white. That's a white. Holy crap.
That's another victory point.
That's another victory point, another experience point for you. Oh,
and the field is clear.
And blocking it.
Yeah, do you block any of them?
We are
Who's this?
Skin strength.
Yeah, and this is dude, another victory for you guys. Okay, that's a big one.
That's what I'm talking about.
Now you get to roll two. Now you're attacking him with 2 HE dice. Zach, you get to roll 2 HE defenses against your. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Lau from Mortal Compass, and I am here to bring you Company Heroes 2.0 review. When I originally spent $600 and played the 1.0 version of the game and reviewed it, I recommend that people do not purchase the game, as it was great in form and table presence, but bad in gameplay and flow. Too many flaws, bad design, different rule books that cause confusion, not enough rules for basic mechanics, and no appendix for different words or symbols, and worst of all, just lack of basic components, the dice, for example. So after a year of receiving my game and getting to a 2.0 print and play version of the game that was consistently updated, and I kept keeping up the updates of the print and play version, I had probably 3 different versions. It actually got annoying at one point, but we did it. What is my thoughts now at the final version that I've been playing? With the Kickstarter coming out shortly, would I recommend spending the money on this game, or would I tell you to pass, as I did in the 1.0 version when I reviewed it earlier? For those looking for the quick answer about a game that was once a 6 out of 10 and where does it stand now, my recommendation is to purchase the game if you're interested in World War II tactic games, or even in competitive games, or if you love games where everything just keeps building up more and more and more and more. It's just a non-stop crescendo until the very end. What has changed that's making me totally switch my thoughts about the game? Why do I now say go get it if you get an option, when before I was very much not in favor of purchasing it? Let's start with components. I have little to say here as I have not received any component updates to the cathedral or the bunkers, which were badly designed in the first edition. Rumors are they have updated the bunkers to hold the unit trays, and the cathedral will not really be changed other than a possible floor base added on. The unit miniatures were great in my opinion in the first edition, and I still think they will stay true for the second edition. As you recall, the vehicle trays were unrealistically low in the 2.0 version. It's stated to include 25 trays they have an update pack coming to that, compared to the 6 in the previous version. So you can buy an update package of 25 trays compared to 6 in a 4-player core set in the previous version of the game. Dice was another poorly calculated amount, to the point that it increased the game time. With the 2.0 version, it's stated to have more than double dice if you purchase what I have purchased. That is something developers clearly realized early on was a problem and have addressed it. Table presence. The table presence is huge and glamorous, and when you play it, it feels like it's a war. It legitimately feels like you're playing a World War II game. The miniatures of buildings standing or destroyed just look amazing. The cathedral does look amazing, but it doesn't function as well as the destroyed and standing buildings. But the problems we have come upon more and more is that the game itself is too big. We play a lot of 3v3s and 4v4, and it doesn't fit on a 4x6, 4 foot by 6 foot table. When I mean it doesn't fit at all. Like, it's just ginormous. You can watch some of the playthrough videos. Now, I can't complain too much, as I did get to play TI4 with 6 players on the same table, and it took up more space than Company Heroes did. But that's because Company Heroes does come with great army trace, and TI, you just have to put your units everywhere. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing to be aware of when looking at this game. Everything was designed to be noticeable. Playing 1v1s, 2v2s, you're fine. As soon as you rip out 3 panels, you get to the 4th map panel, it gets huge. Ease of play. This is what I found the most frustrating in the first edition. And I even made a separate video going into detail about all the issues I had with just the gameplay alone, taking away components and everything. The game originally came with 3 rulebooks, and actually I just found out recently, it came with 4 rulebooks from the solo rulebook that was added in if you bought the solo expansion. And the rules changed between books, and some rules were in one book and not another book, and it was just a pain. Anybody who plays it will agree the rules were just lower place. They have gotten rid of rulebook which is a win. I've included a glossary commander overview book to help better understand the rules with different situations. Night and day difference. What's also nice is that if you're a 1.0 backer, you will have all the rule changes in blue color to see what's changed, where instead of having to read the whole rulebook. The good things is that gameplay hasn't changed, but has been revised to much better flow all around. Balance. What about the balance of the game? 1.0. In 1.0 version, the big 6 to 8 player battles, the allies' win ratio was 1 in 10. They did not win games. And maybe we had made mistakes or players didn't understand how to play with them or whatever it could have been. But it was not a good thing for balance. This is where a lot of the focus was placed in last year in the developing of the 2.0 version. And you can tell. And let me tell you something. All the faction updates and balances and unit compositions were updated in an absolutely... And cha-chang. We should be good to go, everybody. We are pumping it up. That poll started after 10 a.m., which is the best part about it. Yeah. But we have two great players. You might have seen their cast before. This is Rudy, aka the Dutch guy, or as other school they call him other things, versus Applesauce. I mean, one really high competitive player, and the other one I'd guess like more midstream. But I'm not gonna say which one's which. I'll keep that a little secret. Factions have been chosen. Ah, yes. There we go. And now, Brian, you're good to go.
Awesome. Great to have it from the chat. Thanks, chat. So,
Yes.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Company of Heroes fans of all ages. Can we get some hype from the chat? We have a big first round matchup here. We're following Apple so far against Rudy. It's going to be a great first round matchup. We'll see who best who. It is going to be an Ardennes Forest.
Yes.
So we are going to do, this is the first round of the tournament. So we are going to try again for those new viewers that catch this one later on. We are going to try to do a little bit more beginner friendly, and we'll see how that works out. So we're going to be going kind of not quite in the details of the rules, but just to give you kind of an overview as to what's going on during the phases. That said, it does look like the players are ready to play. They did use the new tournament format, which is draw 4 commanders and ban 1. So looks like they're all set. Yep. And that's it. The players should be able to hop down again. Players, if you could just come up in turn order. So when the first player's done with their supply phase, come up for some commentary, because we'd like to get in the minds of the players and just show the viewers what it's like and the time pressure, which we'll explain shortly, and all those great things. So best of luck to you in round 1. Your players should be good to go.
Let's go. Yes, and I'm very excited because we're actually going to see the Soviets. I don't know we've really seen, because the EU tournament is very focused, a lot of Americans on the Allies side. Here we're going to see the Soviets come out, which is going to be very nice to see. Soviets need to play aggressive to stay ahead. You guys can watch the quick faction overview on Brian's channel. They did a really good job with that quick 5-minute overview. And Rudy is playing them. So let's see if he really plays their advantage. Warmocked, we've seen this a lot of times in the EU tournament, and it's back again with Applesauce. So
it does look like Apple chose to go first. Rudy's units are already on the board as the Soviets, as we kind of have in the overlay. The players look like they're getting squared away, and the operations deck is being selected. So let's start with the operations deck. We're just going to show it maybe just for round 1. Slava, you can show it with an alt shift so we can explain it to those new viewers again, since this is round 1. So folks, what happens here is, those just joining us, the first player in turn order gets to draw the top card. They choose either the top number in the top left or in the bottom right. So in this case, they could choose the 3, which is the 2 to 4. We'll explain what that means in a second, or the 5, which is on the bottom. So what that means is how many turns there are. Each turn has up to 3 cubes. Each cube allows a unit to move 1 hex on the board. So again, what happens is you pick it, you secretly put it down facing the table. In this case, it looks like he's picking the 3 to 5, or maybe hasn't decided yet. So then the player gets to see that kind of range. So if they pick the 3, your opponent will see that 2 to 4. If he picks the 5, they'll see that 3 to 5. But your opponent, whoever's going second, won't know that exact number. Once the players, I'm going to start the game clock because the players have already moved. So it looks like they have already started here in the maneuver phase. So folks, that's what's going on. You can spend up to 3 cubes on a unit each maneuver phase, which allows it to move 1 hex. And you don't have to spend all 3 at once because you have multiple turns. So you could spend 1 on a unit, 1 on another unit. Another thing to know is we're actually already in the supply phase. And when you have like a Kubelwagen or some other unit, basically any unit or light vehicles, they all have a speed die. Speed dice have to be used first, and then CPs can move that unit additional. So a speed die can move a unit 1 hex, and then CPs even further. So as the players are going in the supply phase here, looks like we do see a Kubelwagen out of the Wehrmacht player, which is Apple, and then Rudy, it looks like he unlocked his tier 2. So you do have a resource cost to unlocking your tier 2 buildings, and then you gain access to new units. So you start with just your tier 1. You start with 3 standard infantry on the board, which are the green heart units, the health units. If Slava can pop up a tier 1 for us, to help show the new viewers at home. So in this case, the Wehrmacht player has access to like the Grenadier and the MG42. He picked 3 at the start of the game. Did go with 1 MG and 2 Grenadiers. So that's just, you can see that already in action. And then now, does he want a Kubelwagen? He does. He doesn't need tier 2 for that. But then if you want to advance and get access to more units, you have to pay a cost on the back of your tier buildings. You have to do them in order. So that's tier 2. You pay 1 manpower, 3 fuel. Then you gain access to the front of the card for the rest of the game. You can, for the Wehrmacht's got Panzer Grenadiers, Mortar Team, SDKFZ 222. So, you can kind of see all these units as we'll see which ones the players pick that now can be available to purchase.
I think it's the Panzer Grenadiers coming out. I think he's bringing out, yes he is. This is what I love to see. People playing Wehrmacht, I rarely see this unit in the EU tournament, and Applesauce is going right for it right away. I think he's making the right call. Strong units, great map presence, 3 range, great control, can build defenses. Applesauce is playing this one right. I do like that play.
Yep, so players so the viewers at home, that wrench means that unit can build battlefield defenses. It can get a defense die upgrade. It has 5 health. It is a big cost investment at 5 manpower, but it's just such a versatile unit. Kind of core to the Wehrmacht strengths is playing to their strengths of that very heavy duty, very versatile infantry, and that unit just is kind of the showcase unit of that faction. So the Soviets, on the other hand, it's a great unit, especially against Soviets. Soviets don't have a core MG in their kit. They do have snipers. Looks like Rudy is not opting into a sniper, instead just goes with a scout car and a conscript. An interesting choice there because he's just kind of going mass conscript. Looking at his commanders now, folks. So again, he could choose one of these 3 during the course of play. Basically, you have to unlock them left to right, 1 tier at a time. Players do have 1 experience each round, so experience or what required is kind of the symbol in the top left, as you can kind of see here. That's the basically resource that you need to unlock them. And again, left to right. So in this case, with 1 XP, he could choose the urban assault. He could choose armored assault tactics. Both of those could be unlocked right away. He could just sit on his 1 XP, which is this one little kind of white disc that we have on his board next to him. Or he can use it on basically a scout car right now. So he's got some multiple choices that he could go, or he can just, like we said, wait on it. So essentially the new XP system in 2nd edition, again, those new as well, You get 1 XP per round, plus 1 XP for each and every unit you target in the damage phase. So even though there's no combat at the end of round 1, you do get 1 XP, folks. So it just kind of gets the choices going. Not only do you have manpower, which is the core critical resource of the game, that's kind of the most vital one outside of victory points. You have munitions, which helps you with upgrades. Each unit gets upgraded individually on the board. So when you see that red circle under a unit stats, that's that unit's upgrades that uses that red resource. And then green is, for vehicles, basically, on unlocking your tier buildings. It's a little bit more of a timer. So those watching, that kind of is a timer to determine how quickly you can unlock your tier 2 and tier 3 buildings and then get those heavy tanks out. So it looks like, folks, we have Rudy joining us, end of round 1. Rudy, interesting to see you going mass conscripts. What's the plan here?
I have no idea. No, yeah, try to get as many captures as I can. I just built a scout car and another conscript squad so I can go to the right side to get that manpower victory point. That is an important one for me to get. And yeah, I will see if I can hold the line, get maybe the middle capture point. As for the rest, I'm not too familiar with playing Russian, but I know it's Apple's favorite, so I thought, let's play him with something he likes a little bit less than the Soviets. So
It's not much
it will be
less.
interesting to see how it will go.
I do know that he likes the Wehrmacht as well. So, Rudy, you got your work cut out for you.
Yeah,
But those
probably.
conscripts, it is nice to see in the opening. I don't know if you have, we didn't get to quite get into the details of your commanders. You don't have any that focuses too much on them, except for maybe urban assault. So we'll see which commander you choose there. But that could be a good one. But lots of good choices overall, because you can easily adapt with any of your commanders, which we'll get. Do you have any idea with a commander at this point, or are you just going to wait and see so far?
Kind of wait to see. One quick question though with armored assault tactics. If I have the tier 2 upgrade from that, does it also count for new tanks that are coming into play, or just the tanks that are on the field?
So whenever you see the word gain, that's a great question for those new and just joining us. Whenever you see, if Slava's able to alt on that second one just to blow it up for those viewing, basically whenever you see that all gain, kind of that phrase, that's gained both past and future. All of them will gain that one for free. So just pretty cool to see there.
Yeah. And you will see it differently where it says for other commanders you'll find here. Let me see if we'll find one on here. But yeah, that's for everyone.
Yep, so gain is for everyone. If you see now spawns with, or the word now, basically that means going only forward.
Yeah.
So just great to have that clarification there.
Yep.
Okay, totally cool. Then I will send Apple to you guys.
All right, best of luck
Thank
to you, Rudy, going into round 2. Nice choices there with the conscripts, because again, we saw that last night, folks. If you happen to catch that 1v1 show match with Apple, where Rudy helped cast there, it was nice to see just non-stop aggression with the conscripts, and maybe that's what we'll see here. But Apple joining us here. Apple, what are your thoughts seeing this conscript spam? Is it just memories from last night, or?
Yeah, I think he has a plan. I'm a bit concerned, but it comes down to the maneuver phase and what units he moves at what times. Whether he reveals his hand or whether he holds out for the last moment to strike. We'll see what he does.
Do you are you the operations first player this turn?
No, he is. So I'm going second, which gives me priority with the
MG.
heavy machine gun.
Yep.
Yeah. So whatever he goes for, I can stop him.
Well, any plans other than that? Looks like you did get a Panzer Grenadier, which I think is a good unit to have in the Soviets. They don't really have that MG to stop them. So I imagine that was your plan there, just that safe universal unit. Do you have any plans yet with one of your commanders, perhaps?
I'm thinking about it. Didn't want to commit yet, but I feel like if I just hold the VPs, he's gonna have to come to me. So starting to wonder if I should have just gone more MGs, but who knows? We'll see how it goes.
Right.
Fair
And I
enough.
do love your decision to get rid of his advanced infantry doctrine, the veteran infantry doctrine. Good call on that, especially for the Soviets. Getting rid of that really hampers their conscripts really slow down a lot.
It slows them down a bit, but it's I was mostly afraid of him having 5 health units with a 3 defense dice or 4 defense dice and cover. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
Good call.
yeah, so that was mostly what I was concerned with. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
All right. Well, best of luck to you going into round 2. So again, folks, what happens is we have a maneuver phase, a damage phase. Normally at the end of round 1, there's not really maps that are small enough where you have a damage phase, and then a supply phase. So the players just finish their supply phase, and then we're gonna have interviews, just to kind of get into their mindset as what their decisions are, just to give you kind of an overview as to what you're kind of getting with this game and what's the tactical and strategic decisions that each player has to make. So as we're coming out into round 2, he did point out that Rudy gets the operations deck. So now it alternates every turn. So one player goes first the first turn, the next player goes first the second turn, and it just keeps bouncing back and forth. That player chooses the operations deck. Then we enter the maneuver phase. Again, that's just that player gets to determine how many, just a choice out of 2 choices, how many turns there are in that maneuver phase. That's how many cubes, basically just times that by 3. That's how many total cubes they're going to get to spend in that round.
Mhm.
Then the damage, then the supply where they capture points, they put their flag on the points, basically capture it, that increases their income. The key thing to focus on, folks, as you're learning this game is the victory point capture points. As Apple was pointing out there, he really wants to capture those victory point capture points. You got to get that constant trickle going up towards that 21 victory points, folks. That is how you win the game. You don't need other resources to win the game. Technically, you really
Mhm.
just need the victory points to win. You do get a victory point for eliminating an enemy unit, but the main source is, of course, the victory point capture points, because they just keep accumulating round over round.
Yeah, I do like Rudy going for his control point on his end. Very nice. I'm really that MG, and I think Abba had a good point of him going last. His MG he has the freedom to really move and lock down any of these points as needed, and he's going last, so he can just do that. So playing an operation deck, knowing what and when, is super critical for decisions like MGs or any kind of emplacements or anything that needs to be set up dice. So.
For sure. Yeah, for those there's just a lot of choices with the MG. I kind of typically recommend to wait on it. Don't set it up too far ahead of time, but then you kind of lose out in the overwatch. So do you set it up early, get the overwatch, or do you wait to try to get the pin? We do see basically the Wehrmacht player Apple diving on that center victory points, dead center of the map pretty much. And Rudy's not going to have a full. He could basically fight back, but he's not going to have the best response in the end. We'll see how that plays out. And he does have the MG capable of supporting him. And interesting to see, looks like Rudy just takes the bunker. Again, he's just afraid of that MG. Interesting choice there. I would have actually liked to see a little bit more aggression from the Soviet player and actually diving forward into that building next to the MG, folks.
Yep, I was thinking the
when
same
you're
thing.
in that multi-hex building, that MG can't pin you. So yeah, it can hit you for 1, but you could fight back and attack the MG, because even though neither player will get cover, you're immune to pinning while in a building. So that would have been a cool option to see, but there are just so many choices here, and going out wide is nice too, because it still opens up a lot of options in the future rounds for that conscript squad to go to. There's still that double fuel right next to it. There's that manpower fuel if it charges further forward to the right. It looks like Slava is coming from the blue player perspective, so I should just
For right now,
orientate
yeah.
with him.
I'm really curious to see what Applesauce's response is going to be.
Well, it looks like Apple had a DC, so we'll stop the timer. Give him a few moments to reconnect here.
That's it. He's forfeited.
Yep. If he crashes again, he's done, folks. That's it. No leeway here. We have to keep this fair and balanced. That is one thing I probably should have noted. But yeah, I mean, not too many surprises so far from either player in the maneuver phase. I do like the conscript aggression, but no real support units, no real damage. So it's just really just throwing the bodies around on the board, taking advantage of the speed dice, which is nice to see. You can kind of get that with conscripts right
Right.
with tier 1. You don't need tier 2 at all. So it's kind of interesting that he unlocked tier 2 and then didn't go any tier 2 units. You could always just save your resources. One thing, as Slava pointed out in his review, he really liked, is that there's no more hard cap at 9. So you could really don't worry about pooling your resources and waiting so that in a future round.
Look at that Jeep push with Kuba Wagon going right up to the center of the map. And I think he's doing right. I think Applesauce is going to try to take the capture point back from the building. That's what I would try to do, the victory point. It's
so
super
folks,
crucial.
So that Kuba Wagons, for those just joining us here, that you can kind of see it from the overhead view. But behind on the board, if Slava goes down slightly, we'll see that the Panzer Grenadier is kind of off the board. So in TTS, that's kind of how we show that that's being transported. Where in real life, if you didn't use the vehicle tray, you can kind of just put the models next to each other very easily to help show that it's transporting. But that Panzer Grenadier's in there, and because it's not a weapon team, folks, that unit can just fire out while being inside the Kubelwagen. So it's able to throw damage on any unit within range.
And he's going to assign probably to the 2 munition, the conscripts and the 2 munition. That's probably what I'm thinking he's going to assign to, because he could kill it with the 1 armor piercing if he misses the defense roll. Yep, he's doing that. Good play there. What's super nice, I really hope for the Soviets, I would like to see him go for either the urban assault tactics or for the urban defense tactics. Why? And the only reason why is there's a million buildings on this board, and you can always just pop out here adjacent, here's your point. You know, pop out here adjacent, there's your point. Pop out here, you got a point instantly. Because what that commander does is, if you look at the tier 3 for the anti-tank partisans for the assault tactic, you can spawn adjacent to any standard empty building with slow, which is incredible. And if you notice, another thing is they have heroic sacrifice, which the player that kills it does not gain any victory points.
Yeah, so even though it's got low health, it doesn't have a wrench. It's just a great unit to have in a building. It's just very hard to deal with. And then even if you do deal with it, you don't even get too much for it. You do get the XP for targeting it, but if you kill it, no VP. So it does become a situation of, do you leave them? Do you leave behind barbed wire? That's kind of the counter to those units, because they're pesky, but if you leave behind a barbed wire, so that on a capture point, they can't do multiple damage on their own. They are limited to just either, there's both anti-tank ones and anti-infantry ones, and neither by themselves can take out a singular, basically barbed wire. So you need 2 damage to wipe out the barbed wire if you assault it. So assault is a new rule in 2nd edition that helps you attack a point that either has barbed wire, just something that would prevent you from going in, or an enemy unit. So we haven't seen any assaults yet, but we'll cover that in more detail if we do. Both players are just kind of spreading around and getting their damage. We do see that the conscripts live and the Kubelwagen lives.
Right.
So, but both are coming out severely wounded. We'll see how that plays out. That could have been very costly for Apple. Maybe a game ender, because he had the Panzer Grenadier still inside. So folks, if you lose a vehicle that's transporting an infantry, it's gone. Where in a building, if you basically the building's destroyed, the units basically get to retreat out. So it kind of just balances the transport capability that the transport's mobile, and there's so many benefits of transporting an infantry that it just keeps it counterbalanced. So we'll see what happens now, but interesting to see that the Apple, the Wehrmacht player, didn't go fully out wide for that victory point fuel. It is kind of on the outskirts of the map. There's not much else out there. So just kind of going towards the center where there's so many other points to contest. Next round has so many options with these units. So we'll see how that comes into play here. I do think that's a better option. Whereas Rudy on the opposite side has both a scout car and a conscript and another conscript in the bunker. But there's not that many spots with all these units to capture next round. We'll see what happens. He could try to pressure where those grenadier squads are, kind of near where they're surrounded by the ice, that victory points and munitions, folks. That's kind of what I would see over here near that frozen lake, if you will. We'll see what happens, though, going into the next round as the players are in the supply phase. So a lot of cool decisions here. They've already collected their supplies. Looks like the score, Slava's just fully on top of it. The Soviets are at 3 and the Wehrmacht's at 1.
Yeah, I don't think the Wehrmacht is at 1. I don't think he actually added his points, because he's supposed to get 3 this round and he didn't add it. So I did make a ping, but I don't think Applesauce actually has updated that. He says he has 3 control points. I did see him move up his manpower and him move up his fuel, but I did not see him move up his victory points. So
As a referee, folks, in the first round here, I will just kind of help out the players. I just want to clarify that.
I think he should have 4, but I don't want to.
Well, no, he should have 4, and then plus another 3. So 1 plus 3, 4. We'll clarify that as the players join us momentarily.
Okay.
It does look like maybe he's still collecting his resources, but that aside, I do have to say the supply phase, a lot of choices now opening up as we go basically at the end of the second round here. A lot of resources to throw around on the board. Tier 2 very likely to be seen, or does a player rush Tier 3 and to save the resources? A lot of cool decisions to be made.
Wow,
And we'll see
another
if a
Kuba
commander's
wagon.
picked.
Another cool wagon with grenadiers. That's what I'm guessing he went with the Terror Doctrine, allowing his grenadiers to get plus on range when they upgrade with the HE dice. That is very nice. I do like that. He already has 2 on the board. You know what I mean? And
So
this
that-
third one's only going to help him even be more stronger.
So that Terror Doctrine, folks, I'm not sure if Slava's showing it right now, but that first tier
show it.
upgrade, what Slava's talking about is Grenadiers HE munitions upgrade, which normally just is 3 munitions for an HE damage die, so it gives you bonus damage when you're attacking someone. Now also gives you a plus range, so it is something that is a now, it's not all gains. So basically you couldn't have previously purchased it, you do have to wait to purchase it, you have to save up munitions, which he did. Now gains that extra range, so these units become a lot more flexible when basically choosing their target. So we do see him most likely taking advantage of that, but he does get also that Grenadier for free,
Yep.
which I think is why he got that Grenadier in his spawn line. But this is a very versatile commander. It is very cool. It's kind of very flexible, but it really has that King Tiger there at the end as kind of the highlight. So we'll
Correct.
see if this comes into play. That would be scary to get the King Tiger out. Maybe he's going to focus on that to rush that out. But it's a pretty cool and versatile commander. No commander chosen yet by the Soviets player, but we'll see what happens as we continue here.
He did get the sight and range for his middle grenadier. I do like that. It's in the middle of action. You're going to provide. You got the MG in the back providing also sight and range, so they can really work in unison now. Really nicely. I'm sorry, because the grenadier only has a range upgrade, not sight. So he still only sees 2, but he can shoot for 3. And that with the MG in the back will actually allow him can see 4-3 and shoot for 3. MG's still not set up, and I do like that play. No need to set it up unless you're gonna, you know what I mean? Unless you're guaranteed.
Exactly, folks. Exactly. As you're learning the game, as Slava pointed out, you know, you could be tempted to set it up, and especially when you're going second, it's hard to get a read on your opponent. But if they're not on a point yet,
Correct.
you kind of have that tell that they aren't, you know, threatening you. So then when you're going first, you kind of have the opposite problem where you may want to set up preemptively, but you know the rounds and you can kind of see what they're forced to do. So there's a little bit more analysis going first because they can still dive on a point if they guess the round total properly. So we'll see if that comes into play here. I do think it is going to be his choice in round 3 what the operations deck is. So I think Rudy had it last turn if I recall properly. So we'll see what happens. I think both players are playing really good. I know we kind of hyped up Apple. He did have a great 1v1 show match last night. And Rudy might be not too familiar with Soviets, but maybe getting a lesson by Apple last night and using it to his advantage. I do really like to see this T70 pickup.
Yes.
Very happy to see that because, folks, one cool thing about this T70, maybe Slava could bring it up on the Tier 2 Soviet board here, just for folks at home who haven't played them yet or seen them yet. You kind of see that kind of capture icon covered by that no fire icon, basically normally when a weapon team's not set up, that is dual purpose because for in this case, the T70 can spend a CP to toggle no fire, so it can't fire while this is toggled, and can choose later to spend 1 CP to toggle it back. However, when in no fire mode, this unit is able to capture. So a heavy vehicle that's completely immune to anti-infantry damage. We can get into the infantry damage chart, basically the damage chart later, but it's kind of a cool unit to see that has a lot of potential. But Apple joining us here now. I think did you get your score updated? It looks like you're still on 1 Apple. Is there a thing going on there, or do we have it miscalculated?
Oh, that's on me. I'm supposed to have 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he surprised me with the 3. I could have lost the game right there, losing Kuba and the Panzergren. I was hoping to surprise him by taking his VP really early, but no, he surprised me with the 3. I thought for sure he was gonna jump on my manpower, jump on that double fuel, do more things, but okay. He went
Yeah.
low.
Yeah,
We-
folks, what he's touching on there, sorry to interrupt you, Slava, but just want to cover, again, that operations deck, whoever goes second doesn't know the exact number, so when he sees a 3 to 5, or was it 3 to 5 in that case?
Yep, 3 to 5. Yep.
Yep.
So it was when a 3 to 5, folks, the player goes second, doesn't know the exact, so they kind of have to make a tough choice, like Apple was saying there. He's referencing the fact that he gambled and figured it was going to be higher based on the board, but he misread it and perhaps almost got caught off guard there and losing both the Kubelwagen and that Panzer Grenadier, which is inside of it still. But we'll see what happens next there. That's cool that both units survived, and then we see the conscripts basically self-reinforcing by getting their plus health upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what are your plans going into the next round, Apple? We do see that you chose a really fun Terror Doctrine commander, and then you did choose to take advantage of it with your Grenadier in the middle of the board, getting that range upgrade, which is kind of nice. I think just encouraging, again, folks, it doesn't have the sight, but that range kind of encourages combined arm play, just units playing off of each other. It's one thing that we try to focus on in second edition is that even without the sight, that range allows you to kind of be at 3 range and then having some other unit spotting for you, so it kind of gives this awesome feel. So any plans going into the next round?
I'm gonna get that Panzer Grenadier out of that Kubelwagen. Luckily, I'm going fourth, so I will be able to take his VP. I don't really see an assault really stopping me from at least taking it. I don't think he has enough damage to kill a 4 defense die, 5 health unit inside that building.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he sits there, I can kind of trick him into burning down his own building with flame and destroying his own VP, but we'll see how that goes. He may go for my manpower, in which case I'm going to probably pin him and then have my Grenadier push for his manpower, while my Kuba also pushes for the other manpower.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna, if I have to, I'm gonna steal all of his manpower.
So yeah, we'll see if both players go aggressive here. I so far like the play from both players, just getting out there, capturing a lot of points, using the conscripts from Rudy here, and then Apple just countering with aggression of his own. So we'll see how this all plays out. But this is going to be, I think, a very mixed battlefront going into the next damage phase, very likely. So any thoughts? Are you happy with that commander choice? Are you looking forward to getting that King Tiger out?
And the King Tiger might be quite a ways off. I mostly wanted the extra Grenadier. I think I have a plan for the Stuka where if he doesn't burn me down, I'm blowing up his T-70, because it's gonna try and go for a point, and with that Stuka bomber, I can pretty much kill whatever it is because it doesn't get defensive dice, or it won't get fun to almost. So I think I can trick him with that.
Well, we'll see if that comes into play. That is advanced maneuver, folks, but we'll see if that comes into play later in the game. He doesn't quite have that tier 3 commander ability unlocked just yet, but we'll see how that plays out. Best of luck to you, Apple, going into the next round.
Thank you.
We are going to have Rudy joining us here momentarily, folks. Again, Rudy playing the Allies, the Soviet faction here, kind of on the top from the perspective of your screen, just that red player. He does have the sniper squad as well with an AI upgrade. We'll see if that gets into the action. There is just so many different targets and so many different units moving on the board here. I am curious what operation is going to be chosen here. But we'll see what Rudy's thoughts are shortly. But it is cool to see that Rudy just taking advantage of going out wide to his, basically, as you see in the top left corner of the screen on that part of the board, Rudy just going out wide early over there. And we do, I missed that upgrade as well. Apple did also grab the HE damage die with the range upgrade on that Grenadier squad, which the range may not come in handy over there because the unit is alone. But we'll see what happens there. And see what choices they make here.
Yeah, I really hope Rudy.
Hello.
Oh, hey, Rudy, good to see you. Good to hear you.
Yeah.
So Rudy, what are your thoughts with that round? I'm sure you were kind of hoping for a bad roll in that Kubelwagen, which would have gave you a big lead early.
Yeah, I would hope he rolled as bad as he did yesterday. That would have been fun. No, unfortunately that didn't happen. It still did take 1 damage, so that's at least something. But yeah, I can see the Kubel moving to the manpower fuel and the Grenadiers to the victory point. But yeah, that's not my biggest concern because I can probably kill the Kubel with sniper squad, so that wouldn't be too bad, I think.
Very interesting.
So we have to see how it goes there. What my tactic will be, I think, is try to starve him out of fuel because the commander he has, it's all about vehicles. So even though his grenadiers get that extra range, they don't get that extra sight. So that's yeah, the extra range is a bit unfortunate, of course, if he has units aside, but. Yeah, we'll see how that goes, and yeah, I try to be a little bit aggressive on him and see where it goes.
Sounds like you got a game plan. Both of you have awesome game plans as the action's heating up, folks. Those just joining us. Scores 4-3 in Apple's favor, but it's so early, it's anybody's game. Both players are playing fantastic so far. I'm sure you're happy to see that armor piercing out of that Panzer Grenadier, not taking out your conscript. You did get the save there, that one on that basically double munition spot. So pretty cool that both players survived there, so even keel so far on that front. But cool choice at the T-70 and the snipers. I like that combination of units. I think that is just a great lot of utility and options here, as we'll go over what their roles are shortly again with those just joining us and those new to the game. But best of luck to you, Rudy, going into the next round. Last thoughts. Do we see a commander from you yet? No, we didn't. No. Any thoughts on commander yet, or?
Yeah, I find it a bit difficult to see what I want, because yeah, I could go, of course, with the tank with the double defense die. That would be nice, of course, for the frontal armor at least. And yeah, the extra AI would be nice if I can starve him a little bit out of his fuel. Then that could be a great support card. Otherwise, I might be thinking either the urban assault or the urban defense tactics.
Wow, just so many options laid out for you.
Yeah, they can all be good in their own way, but it really depends a little bit on what he's going to do next and how everything turns out and how much experience I'm getting this coming round. So.
All right, well, best of luck to you going to the next round. A lot of cool action we're likely to see. I'm going to start the timer as they're going to continue playing the next maneuver phase. We'll see. Slava's got that cool little graphic. I'm just loving that graphic that he's got there in the bottom.
Yeah. And you know what? Right now, the chat on YouTube is saying that Rudy has the advantage. 100% of the votes are going towards Rudy. I'll close that off in a little bit if you guys want to vote. Who do you think has the advantage now? Access of the Allies player. And everybody's saying the Allies is in an advantage. So it's super interesting. You know, I thought it'd be a little more, 50-50.
And opening up the next maneuver phase, we do see the Kubelwagen using its speed die to move one, and the Panzer Grenadier hopping out for one cube, like Apple kind of let us know his plans there, and we do see that. It's going to be hard to defend that. We do see the sniper on the spawn line. Doesn't even have to move to attack those Panzer Grenadiers. It does have one base AI. It does have spotting and range, so it can attack from 3 away, and it has camouflage. But 2 AI isn't going to pierce through that building alone very likely. So we'll see how this all plays out. From Rudy, I think this is a really great play. I'm sure he's going to have a tough choice which way he's going to face these sandbags.
He built them too early. He should have waited.
Well, no, because one thing to note, Slava, if he didn't build them now, as we kind of see these this Kubelwagen going out, now if the Grenadiers assaulted out, basically moved out of the Kubelwagen and assaulted, which may be what he's doing, then once you're assaulted, you can't build sandbags. So there would have been a tough... It's actually working out. I think that's a smart play from Rudy. He did pick the correct arc, because now if he gets assaulted by the Grenadier, the Kubelwagen is going to have to trigger the sandbags if it wants to attack. So we'll see what happens. I think at that point you would just let either you don't assault and build sandbags yourself with the Grenadier, or if you do assault, you only attack with the
Yeah.
grenadier. Because folks, those just joining us, once you trigger the defense dice, you just roll all the dice together. It keeps it going. I know some people are like, yeah, it's a little bit unthematic, but it just keeps the play going. It's too much calculating out. Oh, you get defense die there, you don't get there. So once you trip it, it's for everything. And sandbags count as heavy cover, which is 2 defense dice. And Slava just showing the little one
The
here.
little one here, he's on. He's live. This is the MVP. Oh, say hello, everybody. Nehemiah, say hello. Oh, he loves it. He loves watching these games. This game's for all ages. That just proves you to it there. You know, this is kind of strange. The more I look at the T70 build, the more I like it. And the reason why I like it is because next round, if Rudy wants, he can place the T70 here and actually capture a point, and an MG will have no response to it. It's a really good. I think I like the T70 build more and more that I think about it. And if he decides to go with the commander, what is that? The armored assault tactics?
Yep.
I mean, he's really got a lot of pushing options.
Yeah, I do like that one. He is going to require that commander to capture that center point because it does need 1 CP to toggle no fire, and he didn't choose to toggle the no fire yet. It is nice to see that he is getting these units to defend his defensive points. I would have actually liked to see the T70 on the other side, though, which I know there's not a lot of tough things. It's just that Kubelwagen over there is... We'll see what happens. That sniper didn't get an AP die, so I still think that I would target that Kubelwagen with the sniper. It is going to have 2 AI, so 2 chances, 2 defense dice, 1 red, and the Kubelwagen would be dead. So we'll see how that comes out, folks. But yeah, a lot of cool options here. Do we see the scout car assaulting? I'm not sure what's happening on the other side of the board, if it just moved
I think he is actually assaulting, yes.
Maybe he's assaulting. I'm not sure. I didn't see the initial play there, but we'll see how that turns out. It is interesting to see. It kind of does incline, perhaps, Apple to stay, but no, it looks like there's no assault because he is building sandbags. So,
well, the Kubelwagen was here. It went 1, 2, speed dice. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
3.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So he did just go there, which is interesting because now it's on the ice, and I'm pretty sure that's an ice tile. Yes, it is an ice tile. As you can kind of see on the map, there's a little circle. If Slava zooms in, there's these tiny blue circles on the map on kind of the center of the hexes now in 2nd edition. To help clarify, we did have some questions with 1st edition. Is this an ice hex? Is it not? There are some ice rules as we can go over when that happens, which does look like it's going to happen at this round, but we can kind of give you an overview now. But there's a little ice matrix on the back of the tier 3 buildings now in 2nd edition to help those out. So what happens is, no matter how many different dice of how many different types you throw, whatever the worst one in the chart is, that's how many dice are rolled by the defending player. And in this case, HE against light vehicles is just 1. So Rudy's going to have to roll 1 die, and if he rolls it red, then the unit is gone. It is sunk through the ice. So we'll see if that comes into play here. Not sure if Rudy is too familiar with these ice rules, but interesting to see that he is getting... wow, the Grenadiers just fully sandbagged that hex, and then we'll see what happens over there. Looks like 2 AI going on that. On the other side, though, I do like Rudy's play, like we kind of pointed out already, behind the cathedral in the opposite corner there, building those sandbags. It does look like... Yeah, it does look like Apple's targeting with the 2 AI to trigger the defenses. I think he's just trying to do that to try to get the kill. I know you're triggering the defenses, but if you don't assign the damage, the opponent doesn't, you know, can't fail the saves, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a risk reward. Do you want to try to kill the unit, or are you just going to settle for the 1? But he doesn't, since he did an assault, he would have to trip it anyway. So in the center of the board, folks, we do see the conscripts with the flame upgrade. They're safe in the building there, somewhat, but a lot of units are firing back on them. We do see the snipers as well targeting that Kubelwagen like we expected.
Which I do like that play. I do like that.
Yeah, Rudy's going to get possibly a nice pickup, but if Apple defends it, I don't know. I think Apple comes out pretty nicely with that pickup and stealing. He is going to neutralize it anyway, folks, so he's going to neutralize that manpower and fuel shortly here once they're done assigning damage dice. So that's a cool new rule. So what happens is once we get to the maneuver phase, at the beginning of the damage phase, first you assign your MGs because they could pin, and pinning also prevents neutralization. Assaulting prevents neutralization, but otherwise if you're on an enemy capture point with a unit that can capture of your own, that flag gets neutralized. So therefore, neither player controls it. So sometimes, like, the sniper is not really good at defending this because obviously you don't want to dive on a
Correct.
defensive point with the sniper. So the sniper is kind of more of an offensive unit in a lot of ways, with just an inexpensive unit with a lot of utility. So we'll see what happens here. It'll be a nice pickup either way. I think the players are hovering over. Yep, it is neutralized. They are showing that. Maybe they're going to start there because there is going to be a lot of cool choices here. We'll see what happens. And we do see kind of that MG having a setup, kind of one thing we touched on earlier, because the turn order, Apple did have to choose which way he wanted to focus, and Rudy hopping out of the bunker to get that double fuel and uncontested. Basically, that's going to be a great pickup for Rudy, very likely getting that fuel and just getting that nice fuel income first going into the next round.
Does take a damage. And the bunker.
He does take damage, and I think the sandbags are going to be gone. I'll just take them off for the players to help them out. We do see the ice rule first. So just reminding the players as I'm kind of refereeing the game. These are experienced players, and they're pretty on top of these things. But just want to make sure that they are aware.
See, what I was amazed he didn't actually assault that Hex.
Well, it's tough because he didn't have the damage to capture it.
But then he wouldn't have sunk the ice. And then if he would have assaulted from here, he would have healed back up from his conscripts.
Wow, Slava with the big brain analysis, folks. This guy is a monster. Go ahead, Rudy.
For the ice, do you that before or after the HE roll?
Before any damage is rolled, because if it's basically a failure, then you're dead. You don't have to roll the damage, right? So it just keeps it clean.
Okay, so you just roll the ice and then.
Yep, because that way, if you fail, if you get a red die, folks, again, just reminding you. It's just only these ice maps that come into play, so it's not that commonly seen, and there's a little bit less ice in 2nd edition, which makes it just a nice kind of flavorful rule to have in the game, and it is a reminder, as Slava's pointing up on the back of the tier 3 board.
Yeah.
So just that one die rolled, and if it's red, it's dead. So like Slava pointed out, that assaulting would have been nice because then it could have retreated back next to the conscripts, and the conscripts could have repaired if it took 1 damage. So these big brain plays under time pressure are, we're kind of armchairing it here, folks, but it would have been a nice thing to see. That's one thing cool, as you point out, though, Slava. Basically, the vehicle doesn't lose any defenses because it doesn't get any.
Correct.
So by assaulting, it still gets the defense matrix, so it wouldn't be any different, better or worse off. It does survive the ice roll, which is nice to see, although now we're going to see the HE die rolled. And it was a miss, so there will be no kill on the scout car. The scout car still gets a defense die against the AI damage, and it succeeds. So again, red is a failure. No failure rolled, so no damage. That's actually kind of nice, I would say, for basically for Rudy. It does get a little bit of damage there. Maybe we'll try to get a damage upgrade over there. We'll see what happens next round. I would grab a damage upgrade myself to try to get that Grenadier out of there. We'll see what happens in the middle of the board now as a rotating action.
And he does block it. Sandbag is destroyed. Very nice.
Now probably moving to the building. There is an HE die from the Grenadier squad. It fails.
It's a miss. So
Apple not rolling well so far.
4 defense dice, 4 damage.
Yep, 4 defense dice for 4 damage. So basically that AP damage, because it's attacking an infantry, you get a defense dice. And nothing.
Blocked.
Everything going Rudy's way so far this damage phase. Well, we'll see. This is going to be the clincher here.
This is it right here.
So that's a nice see. Again, the dice are cool, and they do keep things spicy and people on their toes, and the Koopa Wagon stays alive is going to capture that. So I don't think, Apple had some bad rolls there, but the most critical one there with the Koopa Wagon stays alive. On the other side, I think the dice are already rolled in the corner.
So that it's Soviet. He actually did not assign the Koopa Wagon damage, which was nice, which didn't trigger the sandbag defense. So
I'm not sure which way it's facing. So was it here? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like
would
that.
have. Or was there an assault? Was there an assault in the
corner?
corner?
There was an assault from the Grenadier.
Okay. Yeah, I think he played smart, getting the 1 guaranteed damage, folks. And then because it's only 1 damage, it requires 2 to be assigned to destroy the sandbags. But he instead hopped over the sandbags, shot down a conscript, then hopped back and having to retreat because he's assault was unsuccessful. So that's kind of how it works. Basically, in real life, you just put the cube down to signal the assault. Both units, for almost all intents and purposes, are in that same hex at that point. The defender has the advantage that if both live, the attacking, the assaulting player has to retreat their unit at the end, is what happened and played out there because the conscript stayed alive.
Yeah, and
So
this
again-
is super interesting because as you're watching this game play out, victory points is crucial, especially if playing short games like 21. I think this is tournaments to 21. Am I correct, or is it 24?
Yep.
To
21, we would probably do the finals to 24. That could make a difference. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I know Slava said before the game he likes those super higher victory points for people really liking those longer games. This system is pretty flexible in that regard.
And he
But
does
21
choose
is a good game length.
commander. Soviets. I do like the urban tactics because that will allow him to just spawn on spawn points, like, and harass on the back end. I think it's a good tactic. It's not a strong tactic, but for a short game, this is great. And if you do get a little longer, the KV2 with splash, 3 range, and 2 HE damage really can do great work here. This
Yeah,
is
the
great.
KV2 is turreted, and folks, it's indirect, so that means it can fire over buildings. There is a lot of buildings on this map, so it can really be a nice weapon to bring in. And with that 3 range, even that first turn it spawned is able to threaten a lot of spots on the board. So we'll see if he does get that out. But this is a great commander. Urban
Great.
Assault with the Ardennes Forest here, with having so many buildings and forest
Yes.
tiles, just a lot of cool little nooks and crannies, if you will, to run through. We'll see how that all plays out. But getting all the way to the anti-tank partisans, I do think Rudy just going there for the aggression.
Yes.
And
he's going to need it. He is going to need it.
yeah, I would
2-2-2?
actually like to. I
Wow.
actually would like to see this partisan spawned near his own spawn line. We'll see where he chooses to go with it, just because it can kind of be like a face checker for that sniper squad, and definitely scare off that Kubelwagen if he so chooses to do so with it. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, another quick question.
Yep.
Can I got this partisan for, can I spawn it like next hero here to the Kubel?
Yep, that hex is basically an empty building hex, so that is valid. That is a standard building hex. So good question, Rudy.
Yeah.
And
So I
just folks
can-
at home. Yep, you can spawn
Only
it there.
the
if you
normal
want.
buildings, not the church or the bunker, right?
Correct. The cathedral and the bunker are special, so it
Or
does
destroyed
clarify.
buildings. Or destroyed buildings.
Yeah, okay.
Or destroyed buildings currently. That is, as we are going into 2.04, that is going to change that destroyed buildings. But we won't get into that, folks. We don't want to confuse you. This is 2.03. Destroyed buildings are going to be having this cool little change that we're going to be testing out to kind of bring in a little bit more life to some of these maps, make them a little bit more interesting for those with Terrain Pack 2 especially. So we'll see what
Brian-
happens. I do like to see that pickup. Go ahead, Slava.
I have a really weird question. So the MG setup here, can it actually fire on the guys in the building? 'Cause
Yes.
technically it's shooting
Yep,
through
so-
2 lines. You see what I mean?
It should only be firing through 1 if you go center hex to center hex. It's very hard to see here.
Yeah,
but
I see
it
what you're
should
saying.
It's going to be where it's out of the kind of the side of the building, probably outside of that window. If you zoomed in real close, that's kind of where I see the MG getting set up, outside of that second story window.
That
That's
makes
how
sense.
I see it thematically. But it is a tough angle, and it's always a good question. Again, folks, those at home, it's center hex to center hex with firing arcs. So even just not only firing arcs, but whenever any unit's firing in the game, if you're unsure, if it crosses now in second edition, the 2 gray lines. In first edition, basically they're still green, right? We can't update the old maps, but if it goes through a building that's the green lines, that will basically be blocked by line of sight. So the building's not getting clipped by the adjacent part of that 2 hex building, that multi-hex building. So we'll see what happens, but I think Rudy's playing a great game. I think we're really getting a great show. I know the score is in Apple's favor. Apple knows what it takes to win the game. And Apple's just showing you the Wehrmacht, folks. He's just spreading Rudy thin, but Rudy's spreading him thin. So we'll see how this plays out, because I think Rudy has the advantage, because Slava's showing it from the blue perspective. So I think basically Rudy has the advantage on the left side, the top left, and Apple has the advantage on the bottom right.
Yeah.
And then the middle is anybody's game. Both players having so many critical units there in great positions. So we'll see what comes into play in this next round. But A lot of
Especially,
cool things.
yeah, especially if the T70 right there going to the middle. And the T70 can also go to the right side here if he needs to. So it's super interesting. Because the T70 does have one armor piercing damage, and the 222 is now on the board. And so pretty much the good thing is the T70 is considered a heavy defense vehicle, while the 222 is considered light defense. So in the battle between 222 and the T70 should be favorably just on paper.
Yep, each have their own advantage. The 222 is more mobile with the speed die.
Yep.
The T70 is a little bit slower, but it does have that red health, which means it's a heavy vehicle, even though we might call it a light tank. That's because it's of that heavy armor class, but it's a very light vehicle itself in terms of its weight. It's just it's a light heavy tank, if that makes sense. So just clarifying for those viewers who aren't familiar. Again, you can kind of see by the model that's, as you see on the screen, T70 light tank, but that red health is a heavy vehicle. So yeah, so it does get defense dice in the frontal arc. What that means, folks, is if any armor piercing damage attacks that tank from the front, then the tank itself does get 2 defense dice. Very similar to how infantry get defense dice from heavy cover. Those defense dice can then block towards any damage. So it's just all rolled together. And Apple joining us. What are your thoughts, Apple? You're up on the victory points. Are you happy with your positioning on the board?
Yeah, he's kind of abandoned the right side, which has 4 of the 6 victory points. Now he's spawning some partisans, but really that's just to get back his manpower fuel. It's not to get back any victory points. He didn't put health upgrade on the fewer VP guys, so if I assault him, he's just gonna have to retreat. Or do something. I don't know what he's gonna do, but the Cooper wagon is gonna also be able to steal the double munitions, and his most powerful unit is just sitting in a building. So I don't know what the plan with that guy is. Oh, and for some reason, oh, there it is. My defense die fell over for my Panzer gonna deal. Yeah, so I don't know what he's doing on the right side. The left side I'm a bit afraid, but that's what the 222 is there for, just to come back up the rear on the side. The T70, as long as I don't leave the fuel or the BP munition, there's nothing for it to really capture. I mean, it's strong, it's going to do some damage, but it doesn't have any options. So, I don't know. I think my position is pretty good. He's probably going to eventually get this fuel or the munitions VP from me on the left, but I think that Grenadier can stand for another round because he didn't get flame on the conscript or AI damage on the scout car, so the most he can do again is 2 damage. So I think I'm kind of securing the victory here unless he can pull out a surprise.
Yeah, I do like your analysis there. The ice rule is almost coming into play there. Slava pointed out we would have liked to see an assault by the scout car on your Grenadiers just so that it got off the ice, and then it could have retreated adjacent to the conscripts to get repaired if it took damage, but no loss there, so not really an impact, but it's kind of a woulda coulda situation. So we'll see what happens. A lot of action across the board. You did get the 222 and the mortar squad, so you're happy with those choices going into the next round, kind of securing this middle game and kind of riding your lead, it seems like?
Yeah, it's an efficient 3 manpower purchases, which are pretty good mid-game to try and build up your forces, especially with the fact that they're both CP efficient. You got the speed die from the light vehicle that also has 3 range, and the mortar with 5 range that can get a speed die. So at this stage of the battle, it's pretty good to go for those, just so that way your guys in the front line can still use all the CP, and then the little spares you have extra can move up the units in the back that already have range to support the guys in the front. So I don't know. I feel like I had a pretty solid purchase phase as well. He got tier 3 though, so he's hoping to start banking on hoarding the double fuel. We'll see what he does with that.
We'll see what happens. Just units spread across the board, but we'll see if your commander, you're kind of eyeing, I imagine, that King Tiger. We'll see if that happens. He does need to just unlock tier 3 and get 5 XP. Maybe that's something you're targeting. Maybe you have other priorities, bigger priorities, but we'll see if that comes into play, folks. It would be cool to see the King Tiger right in round 1 with this commander from the elite basically command the ECC expansion there. So we'll see if that comes into play, but best of luck to you, Apple, going in the next round.
Thank you.
Man, That's good analysis, and Apple's correct. As long as he's focused on fighting this victory point and not the other ones, Apple's just Mr. Rudy.
Yeah.
How's it going?
You were the favorite last turn by the YouTube chat. How do you feel now?
Oh wow! Thank you guys for having so much faith in me. Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate that I couldn't destroy the Kubel wagon. So he got that extra fuel and manpower, unfortunately. But I'm going to take it back next round. I'm pretty sure of it. And yeah, what my idea is, the guy on the left on the fuel victory point, he will die anyway. So what I'm going to do is retreat him back to the double munitions while dropping a anti-tank trap. So, or the anti-tank defense, so he can't move in there with his light vehicles and chase me with his infantry. I think that would be the smart play, and then yeah, it gives the option. It forces him, of course, to put his infantry, the grenadiers, onto that point to capture it. Forces his Kubel to move forward towards the double munitions, but he has to go around the church, so he can't really get there. The other Kubel wagon has to retreat anyway, I think, or else it will be pretty much dead by the partisans. So, and there is not really much leeway for him to go, so that would be a good option. For at least maybe a guaranteed kill.
You did mention retreating. I did see that you got the forward HQ unlocked, but you didn't put one on the board yet.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about it. So there's that. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe putting the forwards HQ in the middle of the board. Like,
that was what's
next
something
to the double fuel. But
yeah,
then again,
I
was already low on manpower, so yeah, it would have been. Yeah, for the partisans it didn't really matter where I could spawn them. So, and I couldn't buy any infantry anyway, even if I did spend the 2 CP or manpower to build the forward HQ.
I mean, all valid points there. So we'll see how that all plays out, because that guy lonely behind the cathedral, interesting plans you have there. We'll see again how that all plays out as well. But lots of units on the board, lots of action. I do like this commander choice, as Slava was pointing out, just a lot of versatility with using rally point. You do have, you're out of munition though, so you don't have that one munition to take advantage of rally point. So not really too many surprises. But Apple's saying he wants to see if you got a surprise, because he's kind of got that victory point lead, and it does look like you're going to have to make plays here, because you're falling a little bit behind 8-5. But best of luck to you going into the next round.
Yeah, thank you.
Brian, just a quick question. If the Kubel wagon assaults Hex with barbed wire, does the Kubel wagon destroy the barbed wire? Just because...
It does. No, it does not. Heavy vehicles destroy barbed wire. Light vehicles can just roll on in. It used to be razor wire in first edition. It is now barbed wire in second edition.
So, for example, if there's a barbed wire here, can this Kubel wagon drive through it or no?
Yep, it just ignores it. Light vehicles just ignore barbed wire entirely. They just have no impact. It's like neither of them exist. They just ignore each other. But yeah, barbed wire, folks, in second edition.